At some point in your life, when you're grown up, you will know what is right and you will definitely know what is wrong. When you do what is right, there's an aftermath. And when you do something that is wrong and displeasing, there are consequences. Good thing, there are millions of Nigerians know what is right. First, they got their potent permanent voters card, and then they came out en masse on February 25th, 2023 to vote in the presidential elections to elect a leader for our great country, Nigeria. Many say it comprises over 200 million people, and that's why it is fitting, that is why it is right. That is why it's a civic responsibility that once you're over 18, you get your PVC and then you vote in the elections. We have done that. That's why today, a week later, we're looking at matters arising from the presidential elections just concluded. Nigerians came out en masse February 25th nationwide. Over 50 million Nigerians voted with their potent permanent voters card. We're talking about the matters arising from that time up till now. And Francis Ogbe sets the tone for our conversation with his background feature.
With the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections conducted, claims and counterclaims abound. But one of the selling points of the election was that it witnessed the largest turnout of electorates in Nigeria's history. The election also included the country's largest ever most youthful electorates. Above all, the atmosphere was that of eagerness and excitement as electorates were willing to exercise their franchise.
A lot of people came out very early, before 7 o'clock. A lot of people came out, and people were so excited that they had another opportunity to vote. But that enthusiasm gradually waned and died when delays, prompted in. From 7 o'clock, you waited till 12, no sign of INEC. They waited till 4. They started around after 4. Even in Abuja here, people were asking what actually was happening. So you see the enthusiasm, the happiness, the air of camaraderie, people were happy, people were buying drinks for people at that early stage, was dampened by the later part of the day because people have waited up to 8 hours and the Independent National Electoral Commission was nowhere to be found. So they came very late. Why should logistics constitute a problem? Why should INEC come late? Why should there be delayed deployment of materials, even personnel?
With the emergence of Mr. Bola Tinubu as the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, many have described the election as a keenly contested election, as no one could predict the winner at first, unlike previous elections in Nigeria. What does this portend for the development of Nigeria's democracy?
For me and you, we may not know who will be the winner, because we believe the system, we believe the process, we believe what the guideline says. We believe what we were promised. It doesn't matter whether the elections were predictable or not, whether you have 2 parties or have 3 parties, it doesn't matter. The umpire must be seen to have integrity and must live that integrity.
Despite pockets of violence recorded at some of the polling units across the country during the presidential and National Assembly elections, the Nigeria Police Force and other security agencies effectively ensured a de-escalation of the security challenges. How would you assess their performance?
I opened my phone and I was looking at reports from other areas, people sending pictures, see people being violated, people being beaten, people even shot, gunshots, people snatching ballot papers, people being told to go back to where they are coming from. They are not supposed to vote here. If you are in an environment of where elections are to be held, if you are in a polling booth, you should have some level of security. You should feel secured. You should feel safe. But that was not the case. You have political violence, and the police is standing by without doing what it's supposed to do. Are they not accomplices?
The National Peace Committee, under the leadership of General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, has commended Nigerians for turning out en masse to exercise their civic duty by voting in the just concluded election. But some Nigerians are asking if the signing of the Peace Pact by presidential candidates had a major impact on the election.
I see the signing of the Peace Pact as being mechanical. Signing of that Peace Pact does not impact on it, because it didn't reduce violence. You saw the woman that was injured, I think in Lagos, the woman in Edo. You saw people that were killed, and they also, all those things. Yeah, but the people who were threatening people in Lagos, what impact did the peace accord or whatever had on that? Yes, people, it's a good intention to sign, to get people to live up to what they promised. But that ended up not being the case because desperation. Some people didn't want to be humiliated to prove that they are relevant. They designed all sorts of things to make them triumph.
Elections should not be seen as a do-or-die affair. Therefore, Weekend Deal today is captioned 2023 Presidential and National Assembly Elections, Matters Arising.
Should not be seen as a do-or-die affair. Oftentimes, these gentlemen and gentle ladies who take part not only to aspire for office, also were part of those who come out to vote for our candidates. You're watching Weekend Deal. Don't forget our program is interactive. We want to hear from you in the course of the program because it's about all of us. And for all of us, I remember what we say and how we say it's one for all and all for one. Now we go to Lagos. They are assessing the presidential elections and looking at the other side. What is the other side? Let's find out.
The land is green, it's green, and you see, the harvest is ready. The Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me.
The much-awaited 2023 presidential general elections has been conducted. An election that saw a majority of voters, especially the youth, for the first time turning out en masse in Lagos to be counted based on the assurance from the electoral umpire, INEC, that their votes will matter this time around in improving the lot of the country at large.
All they need from government is cooperation and development.
We need the hospital because of our pregnant women. We need the hospital because of our children. We need the hospital because of health.
To remain optimistic is to remain hopeful, not to hope against hope, but to believe that these processes that are started well will crystallize in a free and fair election, and that there will be a new turn and curve with this particular election, which has been the 7th general election conducted by INEC.
Known for their resilience, Lagosians were at their various polling units as early as possible, waiting patiently for their electoral officers.
I say kudos to INEC for doing a very good job. There have been no complaints. There have been 1 or 2 incidents of the voters' card not having pictures or a little bit faded. But apart from that, and the INEC officers there have addressed it very well. So there have been no complaint. As you can see, the whole place is cool and calculated. People are enjoying themselves, and the party agents have also been there. They've been cooperating. They've been bringing out their people.
They are really trying their best, as in to make everything be in order and to make us know why we are here.
From what I've seen now, it's very impressive. People are coming out, and the type of fears people are expecting is not there now. There's no violence, there's nothing as far as they're concerned now. So we just hope that people will still come out and vote. And if they ask from those that have gone to vote, they will discover that it is peaceful and transparent and very smooth.
Nigerians came out en masse to, cast their votes for their various desired candidates. And that was a boost on our democracy because it gives us hope that the citizens still believes in the electoral processes. I think the collection processes, the registration processes was fine. Then the voting processes was fine. The last phase, which has to do with the uploading of the results, was where we had a lot of disturbances and irregularities.
The social media space was abuzz with several posts of happenings of the elections as they unfold, as well as exciting creative posts that will linger in the hearts of many for a long time.
The polling unit ever. The land is green. Can the polling unit ever. And you see, the harvest is ready.
Your messages are coming in. I'll just take one now from Sally Sue. It says, good morning. Nigerians exercised their franchise by voting last week, and we're ready to do the same on the 11th of March. All because of the enlightening voters' education we got on the NTA. It says NTA, you are the best because you are fair, credible, and upright. Many thanks, Sally Sue, reaching out from Kano. We're going to have a chat now with Dr. Mohammed Dankagi Mohammed. Is the Directorate of Democracy and Development Studies, Institute for Peace and Conflict. How do you do so?
Conflict resolution. I'm fine.
Okay, and conflict resolution. Great to have you with us on Weekend Deal.
Pleased to be here.
You monitored what happened nationwide, and you've seen our features now. We touched down in Lagos. We also spent some time in Rivers State to see the other side. How it was for Nigerians. So what is your take on what was witnessed nationwide?
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to come and talk on issues arising from the just concluded presidential and national assembly elections. As it is elsewhere, and with every elections, they always come with matters arising. These ones are not exception. We could see some people were jubilating, some showing displeasure, but that is election for you. Just as it is in every sporting event, you always have a winner and a loser. The winner should be magnanimous in victory, and losers have spirit of sportsmanship.
All since January this year, we have been enlightening Nigerians because those with their potent PVCs are the ones who have what it takes. They are the ones who are going to be calling the shots. Who called it last week? We're going to be calling it again next week with their PVCs. We've been urging them to vote wisely and how to conduct themselves when they get to their polling units. But add your words of wisdom and experience in election matters to what we have done, what we are still doing.
Let me go back to telling us one of the responsibilities of our agency. We have it as a duty to ensure a culture of transparent, credible, and peaceful democratic succession or transition as a means of preventing conflict. Ours is about peaceful atmosphere. If an election is not peaceful, you cannot talk of credibility, fairness, and transparency. So it is important that we have peace before, during, and after. For us to achieve this, what we normally do is to embark on vulnerability risk assessment of the country. Come back, analyze, go back, advocate, and sensitize the people on the need for them to ensure that elections are conducted peacefully. Election, as we all are aware, is a formal process of selecting people into public offices, or accepting or rejecting them. That is, if you are not happy with
which is what we've already done, and we're going to be doing again in a week's time. But hold your thoughts. We'll continue our conversation. We'll take a break now. You're watching Weekend Deal. Keep your messages coming in. We'll be right back. Don't go away. You're watching Weekend Deal. We're talking about the presidential elections and matters arising. Lukman just reached us from Zaria. He says the elections was quite peaceful in Zaria and its environs. I would like to thank INEC and all its staff for a job well done. It says that they expect the process to improve in the Guba elections, which will come up on March 11th. Lukman from Zaria, thank you for reaching us. Keep them coming in. I'm having this chat with Dr. Mohammed Undakogi. Mohammed is the Directorate of Democracy and Development Studies, Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution. So we've talked a bit about the just concluded elections. And before we took that break, we'll try to talk to Nigerians. We have another one coming up. The Guba elections are on March 11th. Talk to Nigerians about the expectations for them in terms of being patriotic.
Thank you so much. From the just concluded one, let me go back to that again. For me, it appeared to be very transparent, peaceful. I listened, observed, and noticed that, like I said earlier on, some complaints or concerns were raised, like the issue of malfunctioning of the beavers, late arrival of election materials, of voting in some polling units, and a number of other things. I am looking forward to seeing an election that's coming up on the 11th of March to be as peaceful and even much more peaceful than the one we just had. And for us to be able to achieve that, all hands have to be on deck. INEC cannot do it all alone. We are all stakeholders in this very project.
Indeed.
Security, media, name it.
But you commented, just a minute, you commented on some things that could have caused some gaps in the process. Talked about late arrival of materials. Talked about non-performance of some of the beavers machines. I thought you were going to now talk to those in charge of that area to ensure that they put the mechanism in place to ensure that it does not reoccur, because 31 states will be going to the polls next week.
Thank you, Thelma. I want to enjoy the election management body to do all it can in its powers to make sure that election materials arrive in good time.
In good time is what time?
As
10
early
a.m.?
as early as 7:30, then set up and set the ball rolling.
You think 6 a.m. is too early?
No, it's not too early. It isn't.
Because you said 7:30, like those people
At
that
least,
come for work.
Okay, sincerely speaking,
5:30.
the last one that I observed, I arrived at the polling unit in Suleja around 7:27 or thereabout. I met so many voters.
Already there?
Already there, but nobody from the INEC or security. Okay. And for me, I feel the subsequent ones.
What time did they arrive?
They arrived immediately I left, because that place I started and it was meant for me to come and conclude the observation there. So I came back and I was told immediately I left around 7:35, 7:37 they arrived, and were able to set up and commenced the
But I'm sure you
process.
had your eyes and ears in other parts of Abuja or Nigeria.
Yes.
What is your feedback from other places? Were they prompt?
They weren't. That actually has been the reason why I feel INEC should improve in making sure that the logistics are properly handled, addressed, so that the voters will not be disenfranchised. Late arrival will, give rise to commencement in a very late hours. Some I could remember commenced around 12:30 or thereabout, and couldn't finish in good time. Some finished around 6. 7.
So when there's promptness and regularity in terms of materials and the ad hoc officials, then everything will work at a great pace.
For sure, for sure.
So talk to the electorate now. They are there. We saw the other side, like we saw Lagos, we saw people, if you brought, because people left their homes as early as 5:30. They came with family, friends. We saw people, perhaps you didn't bring snacks, join us. We saw that side. We saw them also giving preferential treatment to the aged, to the ailing, and those with disabilities. We are urging them to do more, the electorate as well as INEC. So let's talk to Nigerians.
Sincerely speaking, civic responsibility, going to vote, for me and every Nigerian, is a must, very well to do. You cannot sit back and say the leader elected by people is not performing if you did not do your bid. So it's important that you go out there, come sunshine or rain, do your bid, exercise patience, wait, and do the needful.
We know that when we're talking with INEC staff, like Mr. Festus Okoye, we spoke with him before the elections. We also spoke with Mr. Victor Aluko. We got to hear that just under 90 million Nigerians registered to vote. That's those who are over 18, got their PVCs. But time for elections, I think we had less than 50 million people come out. Oughtn't we to get more than that?
Exactly. I noticed that in many of the polling units I visited, observed. I could remember there was a particular polling unit, Angwa, where you have on the register about 950. But those that were accredited were just 102 to show the level of apathy. I could remember as well, when going around, I was coming from one of the polling units around Bakin Iku filling station. I met an old man trekking, and I stopped, sought to know where he was heading to, and he told me he was going to Dawaki. So I decided to give him a ride, and we got talking. Behold, he said, where he was going is about 3 to 4 kilometers.
But he was walking it.
He was walking it.
Just to go and
perform the civic responsibility. But that when he was coming out of the mosque, virtually all that prayed together with him said that, lo, we are not going out to do that.
Okay.
He sought to know why. See, of what benefit?
Okay.
The reasons are, one, cash crunch, no money to transport themselves to where they are supposed to go to. Because some of them, like this very fellow that I was talking about, registered somewhere, got money, built his own house somewhere. So he needed to, go back to where he registered.
Okay.
So that actually was one of the reasons.
Was a deterrent for him.
Exactly.
Just have voters' apathy. We want Nigerians to come out and vote, but we must wrap up our conversation at this time.
Thank you so much.
Doctor, I want to thank you for being on Weekend Deal. Dr. Mohammed Ndankogi Mohammed, Directorate of Democracy and Development Studies, Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you, Doctor, for being a part of Weekend Deal.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Another feature beckons, and this time we're looking at the determination of Nigerians to be a part of the voting process. Let's see this.
will be one of the most peaceful, and this place is going to get a credibility that will get a award in the next election. Thank you very much.
This happens to be the much anticipated day in the year, the day many Nigerians have eagerly awaited.
The exercise is okay, it's moving well, the INEC people is here, the youth corpers are here, and they are about to start.
The beginning of another quest in electing the country's next president and other contesting candidates into the hallowed chambers of the Senate and Federal House of Representatives come May 2023. Many eligible voters in boisterous mood have already found their way to the various polling units for necessary accreditation in preparation to carry out their civic responsibility.
If I vote, I'm sure that my vote will count.
Despite the seemingly general enthusiasm and excitement surrounding this election, there are still some perceived observations that do not seem to give cause for total cheer, particularly as regards the late arrival of some independent National Electoral Commission INEC staff and even electoral materials to polling units.
In the morning, we waited for them to start up until 20 minutes past 12 before they arrived. So people were really restless here.
The beavers was not working initially. And when it started working, we noticed that the queue was very much.
It's also noteworthy to see a kind of well-coordinated security apparatus and network on ground to guarantee voters' confidence in various areas visited here in Enugu.
I've been standing helping to mind the line to make sure that everything is going on in this arena. That's what we are doing, and election is going on smoothly, very well here.
As the mood here suggests, no one wants to be disenfranchised this time around, and the reasons were not far-fetched. Nonetheless, these 2023 general elections, starting with today's presidential and National Assembly elections, posit a good omen that the people are more ever willing to build on the gains of democracy for Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria.
Weekend deal, and it's great to see that Nigerians were very determined to be a part of the voting process. We just heard what Dr. Mohammed was telling us earlier, that some was walking 3 kilometers to be a part of the voting process, and that indeed is a patriotism. Like we said earlier, it's one for all and it's all for one. Now it's time for us to show you our next feature, which is the fallout of the declaration process.
Election has come and gone as Nigerians trooped out en masse to express self-commitment by casting votes for political candidates of their choices based on their conviction. But what are the reactions on the declaration of the election results?
INEC promised that their vote will count. But what are we seeing? We are seeing that our vote is not counting.
We come out, we vote this party because we need change for Nigeria.
The outcome of the election is very okay, and I want people of Nigeria to accept the election, the result in good faith.
Nick Dezan, former Director, Voters Education and Publicity, INEC, says this year's presidential election was keenly contested.
The first set of elections, the presidential and National Assembly elections, have been declared, and winners and losers have emerged from the conduct of the elections of Saturday, 25th February 2023. There's no doubt that the elections had some challenges, but the outcome shows that the results reflect the intentment of the voters, and the elections were keenly contested by the 18 political parties. In fact, some of the major parties made inroads in other jurisdictions outside their zones.
This election, in my own opinion, has been the fairest, most free and fair in the political history of election in this country. You can see that even the president-elect was defeated in his state. That is how far the thing went to determine the fairness of and freeness of the election.
It's obvious, it's conspicuous that it's a free and fair election. Like, away from what we used to have in the past. You know, I commend the INEC chairman. He has done tremendously well.
On the outcome of election results, what is the way forward for other political parties?
They should be mature in, they should demonstrate maturity in defeat. They should accept the election unequivocally, without blaming anybody, without making any allegation of rigging or anything of that nature.
I want to call on all our brothers and sisters, even my Igbo brothers and sisters, that look, sometimes in life, you may desire something, but God knows better. And for the men of God and women of God that have been speaking to the people, ask yourself, will you fight the fight of God? He says the battle is mine. So why are you fighting his battle?
Presidential election, the winner, the president-elect, should extend a hand of fellowship to those who lost. This is key because if you look at the total votes of the two runner-ups, the PDP candidate and the LP candidate, and you tally them, you will discover that if, for example, those votes were given to one particular candidate, he would have defeated him. So what it shows is that the election was very keen, and what we need is a president-elect that is magnanimous, that extend the hand of fellowship to those he defeated.
Good sportsmanship goes beyond the game. Let's join hands and build a great
former director with INEC, and he's been speaking extensively about the fallout of the declaration. There will always be winners and there will always be losers. And that's a phrase we use keenly and often, and it behoves us to comport ourselves with decorum and finesse at all times. We'll have this chat with Otumba Dr. Dejare Rewane Adegbenro. He is a security expert as well as a politician. So he's in a very comfortable space at this time. He'll be talking about the security, how it was last week, expectations for the coming week, which is March 11th. And being a key player in politics in Nigeria, he can also expand in that regard. Hello, sir. Great to have you with us on Weekend.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Yeah. We've just concluded the presidential elections last week. If we talk security, how would you say that we fared?
I would say we did fairly well, because this is the first election, if you know the architect of security, being army, police, the issues that's already was in line of kidnapping, Boko Haram and all, we are still dealing with that. Our force base is 1-point-something million when you mix all the security agencies together. So for them to conduct an election, being that some are already in certain key places that they're handling their jobs, to come together in this thing, I have to give it to the president that we did actually do very well. For the being that there was a lot of calmness, yes, a little bit of anger here, a little bit of people saying this and that, they will burn this, they will do that. But the actual election and after election was almost perfect.
Has been nicely handled in terms of security.
Very well so.
Are there areas that you think they can cover? March 11 beckons again, 31 states will be having a governorship elections.
I do believe they will try better, because if you've already done very well during the presidential election.
You said fairly, now it's very.
Very well, in the sense that it's not the best, but very. They will do well. I have to believe in the police, in the army. They've done, and they've kept the calmness. If you look at it, all the things that's on social media and people talking, oh, they're going to burn this, or raise the whole Nigeria into fire, blah, blah, blah. It didn't happen. Every corner, you will see a policeman and you see army. We that were in Abuja, and my voting unit is in Ogun State, because I'm from Abuja. They were everywhere, from Lagos to Ogun State.
You
and
went
Abuja.
by road from Abuja?
No. I flew by air.
Okay.
But everywhere you go to, from the airports, they were ready for the whole thing.
Well manned.
Well manned, very well manned. And the way they comported themselves, I was actually shocked, and I was very happy, because I've seen all the past elections from 1999 to today.
People would say that they had a lot of time to prepare. We've been talking about elections seriously since 2021.
Yes, we've been talking of election 2021, but in security is not something that is automatic.
Definitely.
And they have been trying, they've been doing a lot of training, especially police. They did extremely a lot of training. And that is why I also thank the IG, the current IG, that he did that training. And I had the opportunity to speak to them, because that is my field. And when I saw that they were doing training as far back as October, intense training, not for recruits, for the people that are already in the system.
Okay, you are a security expert as well as a politician.
Yeah.
And good thing you are a patriot as well, because you also went to vote, traveled all the way from there. Will you be doing that again?
Yes, I will.
Okay, interesting. What would you be telling your friends, your neighbors? You know, security agents are doing their part. What will you be telling people, Nigerians who are coming out again en masse to vote in governors?
Yes, well, I would say to each state, the youths, the adults, the old, that this is the time, is your voice. And mad with all the during the election of lack of money for people to travel and all this, with all that in place, people still came out. So that encouragement is still there, and I want to encourage them to still come out and choose the governor they want as
they want to see.
They want to see to run the next 4 years in office. For instance, now in Ogun State, my governor is Dapo Abiodun. He's APC. He's a man that is close to me, but he's a man also that you hardly see. So you have the complaint that you don't see him. But I explained to people, I said, listen, it's not by seeing a man.
Are you seeing what he's doing?
Are you seeing what he's doing? If you go to Abeokuta, he's totally changed. And he has unified a lot of things. Sometimes you go to the roads, you're like, am I really in Abeokuta? So, you know, I like people to go out and look at what these people have to offer if it is their first time going, or if they are incoming governor for another 4 years, they should look at them critically and say, what are these people going to do for me? Because Nigerians are well educated as per this particular election.
Enlightened.
Extremely. So for me, go out and vote your conscience.
Your conscience.
You know?
There's been a little talk about voter apathy, but we'll come to that. We see that it has greatly reduced. People are keen to be a part of the process.
Yes.
So that's quite encouraging. We'll continue our chat. Let's look at security assessment. Our colleagues, our producers have been working assiduously to bring to the fore what their take is on, based on research. Security assessment, what did we find?
Are often perceived as a procedure for regulatory competition, political power through votes. Elections are the fundamental building blocks for democracy. Ahead of the 2023 polls, candidates and leaders of the 18 political parties in Nigeria agreed in September 2022 to sign a peace accord committing to a peaceful campaign. According to the leader of the National Peace Committee, the accord calls on all parties to refrain from using violence, incitement, and personal insults against opponents, which has marred electoral campaigns in recent years. Politicians, including party agents, have been accused of sponsoring violence and promoting hate speech against rival candidates and ethnic and religious communities. In turn, the deployment of armed militias, gangs, and state security forces to curb these and ensure a peaceful conduct of the election.
The expected vote but sure election that is peaceful, election that is free of crisis, elections that is fair, and of course, an election that is transparent and credible. Things have been said time without number, but it means certainly unpredictable.
In the years leading up to the 2023 election, INEC offices across the country were subject to looting, arson attacks and shootings, as well as abductions and assassination of electoral officers. Safety and security of persons and properties is important for the conduct of free and fair elections. Therefore, security agencies in various states strove to ensure security at various stages of the electoral process. Where conflict is endemic, some parts of Lagos witness different forms of electoral violence characterized by snatching of ballot boxes and threats during the February 25th election, which led to the invasion of such areas by the military. But overall, it was peaceful. How impactful was the invasion of the military?
The impact wasn't really felt, wasn't well felt across the country, and the security architecture wasn't well established vis-a-vis communication, mobility of troops and security personnel across polling units. It wasn't tested, and it didn't give the desired result Nigerians were hoping for.
So far, there is an improvement in this election as against what we had in 2019, because I was also involved in that of 2019.
Security cannot always be adequate, especially in a country like Nigeria, which is under police, even by United Nations standard. And so it may not be enough, but at least first we'll be able to have a few security men here and there, and wherever there is serious security issues, there was always a cry, to different agencies to say, hey, send your security men here.
Nigeria's 2023 elections will remain historic. The peaceful transfer of power from President Buhari to his successor will be a remarkable milestone.
Channel 10, that's great, in depth, yes. It will be, it's expected that the transition will be peaceful, and Nigerians need to make sure that that is at the forefront of all that we do. We went to the polls last week, February 25th, for the presidential elections, as well as the National Assembly elections. And as we speak, there's a president-elect, and he will be elect until May 29th. Yeah, May 29th. What is your take on that?
Well, people came out to vote, and it was overwhelming. And the president-elect is somebody that I've known from the age of 16. He's a unifier.
Were you already a politician then?
No, I wasn't.
You were the son of a politician.
Well, fortunately for me, my two grandfathers are politicians. My paternal grandfather is DS Adigbenru, Dauda Adigbenru, who was the premier of the Western region. My maternal father, late Pa Alfred Rawane, who fought for democracy, the financier of Nadeco, and it was during that period, before his assassination by the military, that I got to know Daddy Tinubu, Daddy Oshoba. And if you look at it, a lot of people do not know the history about Daddy Tinubu, as I refer to him. And as
we don't expect you to go back way to his birth, but give us a small brief.
He's been someone that's been consistent. He's a happy giver. He knows how to bring the best out in people. Because if you look at from 1999 to date, he's still the only person that cares really for Nigeria, that you can see. Lagos is on his template, and it's
in your own opinion, sir.
Yes.
In your own opinion.
Yes, this is my opinion, and this is the truth.
Your truth.
No, it's the truth, because at the end of the day, a lot of people do not see that aspect. Because of technology and social media today, character assassination and all those things.
No, but we know a lot of disinformation is going on there with mischief makers. So we don't really pay, serious people do not really focus.
He doesn't, and he has said it. He's going to take Nigeria to the next level. That I believe in him extremely. And I believe the president, if the president did not believe in him, he won't be where he is today.
Okay. We're still talking security, you know. When we discuss security matters, it is key because then we talk about the safety of lives and property. And everyone ought to be keenly concerned about that, you know, because when the nation is secure, then we can be sure that things can actually work well for everyone. Perhaps take a few messages now. Let me look at this one. It's talking about, okay, I said, Otumba Gbenro is speaking with a lot of maturity, and we do hope and pray that things will continue to go well for Nigeria. This is Yahaya Musa. Yahaya did not tell us where he's reaching us from. Let us look at the role of the electorate in ensuring that the security agencies do their work well. People, it's not personal or individual, it's collective. How ought we to comport ourselves?
Well, you see, Nigerians know what to do. I give you an example, and I always use this example a lot. You know, if you see a Nigerian leaving this country to go abroad, they're totally different. They get to their destination, let it be London or America. You will not see them shout at policemen. You will not see them shout at army. You will not see them doing anything at all. But when we're now back to our own country, it is when everybody says, oh my goodness, this is total madness. It's my country. And everybody is a big man in Nigeria. They want to cause chaos. So it's not as if we do not know this. You get what I'm saying? But at this time, that is so sensitive. Nigeria has been a ticking time bomb for a while because of all the poverty, the herdsmen, the kidnapping, the Boko Haram.
Now, as we go to the polls.
And now to the polls, I will appeal to them that everybody should be calm. You don't need to make noise to get your results. You are going to the polling vote to vote for your candidate. Vote for your candidate and live in peace. Let INEC do their job, which I would say, INEC, you have to give it to them, whether you like it or not. They have tried. They were not bullied. They tried to bully. I was watching the TV from the different media, television, news and all these things. You cannot expect somebody to announce a result.
Okay, but I have to hold that thought, because there's talk about the peace accord. You know, every time when we're going to the polls, we sign a peace accord, the candidates and the parties. Let us see this package on the peace pact. Let's see.
Since 2015, the National Peace Committee has continued to remind political gladiators that Nigerian elections and leadership contests are not a do-or-die phenomena and should not be so.
Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution makes it clear that leadership in Nigeria is to emerge through a democratic process and that people's participation shall be ensured by the laws and rules made. And this presupposes that every person, both candidates, their supporters, political parties, are to act in accordance with law. So it beats my imagination that we have to compel these candidates to continually sign peace accords, which they never keep.
Signing of peace accord has become a national symbolism in Nigeria's political life cycle, which is aimed at converging political actors in the presence of the international community to resort to constitutional means if they are dissatisfied with electoral outcomes.
Call it symbolism, more like something for show. The US conducts elections, the British, you may say, is the Western world, and they don't sign this thing because they know that anybody who perpetrates any act of violence will be treated in accordance with law. So they don't sign them. Why us? Why is it that people come here to witness us signing agreement? And we're thinking that we are fools, thinking that we're not serious people. We should insist, we should ensure that any and everybody's ability to perpetrate acts of violence is neutralized even before they take off.
In the face of signing peace cohesion before, during, and after the elections, Nigeria still witnessed multiple occurrences of electoral violence and intolerance as witnessed in the recent election, thereby questioning the importance of this epoch-making event.
And it also goes to show that there is expectation that these politicians and political parties will resort to actions that undermine the democratic process, resorting to violence, snatching ballot boxes, doing things that violate the electoral laws, and doing things that undermine the democratic process that will make them to sign a peace accord. And sometimes such conduct escalates on the election day, despite the massive deployment of law enforcement agents. People get killed. In some areas, there is threat of violence, preventing people from voting or actually attacking them so that they don't vote.
As we have seen in the turnout of events in the political history of Nigeria, signing of peace accord is yet to yield much needed impact in curbing political related violence. And so we ask, are there better ways to ensure compliance to peace agreements?
Until we let our politicians and those who work for them, those who support them, know that actions must have consequences, until we put our foot down and enforce the provisions of our laws, no matter who violates them and no matter in what circumstance they violate them, and also ensure that those who perpetrate these acts are kept out of leadership positions, they will never get it right.
It is important to strengthen the law enforcement agencies to ensure peaceful conduct of the elections. However, it is also much more important to make political actors desist from provoking and nurturing opportunities for violence to ensue.
I would like to believe that instead of dwelling so much on symbolism by signing this peace accord, that the law enforcement agencies should put boots to ground and ensure that the actions that lead to breakdown of peace and order do not arise. Because whether you sign them or not, what is important is what happens in the field. So if you don't sign this peace accord and you have a peaceful conduct of election, it makes better sense than signing them and still having massive outbreak of violence all over the country.
Making utterances or showing conduct that incites violence or intolerance must be cautioned, while political supporters and fans must be educated on the importance of signing a peace accord.
We do things for a reason, and when you do things right, there's an aftermath. When you do things wrong, there are consequences. But we like things to be done right so that the fallout is good for everyone. Our focus now, Otumba, is on the peace accord. One was signed. What does that encompass, the peace accord?
Well, the peace accord that was signed is basically all the contestants and everybody to ensure that whichever party, they should make sure they stick to the peace accord. But obviously, you see in some places that from different way people talk, inciting different things. Now, they know that that's against the Electoral Act. We need to take it very seriously that, especially coming the governorship election, that everybody that has signed the peace accord needs to go down to the last voter to tell
But
them.
does this make the intended impact? Do you think it is getting the impact that it ought to have?
There's a lot of
people
mischief.
going to hack into it?
A lot of people, you see, it's up to your principle. If you look at it that a governor is going for any governorship candidate, because we can't talk about the presidential, we've passed that. For governorship, they should be able to look at it that this peace accord must stay as it is. And they too have to be careful, and party officials, not to incite their voters.
With speech.
With speech that will now erupt to another thing. There will always be losers and winners. You get what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean because I'm a loser and I have to incite a lot of things. I don't believe in that. You get what I'm saying? I believe that, okay, I've run my race. If I lose, okay, no problem. You reach out. Because collectively is what we need Nigeria to move forward, irrespective of that. And that is why, if you look at it, the president-elect that you have now has reached out to everybody that let's come down, let's all come together and work together. And that is the only way Nigeria will go forward. and let us be calm. Let us know that don't scatter a process, because if you scatter the process, we are now taking our years back,
Taking us back.
which is not the thing that is good for us as a nation.
Okay, some talk about a stronger commitment going forward. Are there ways we can ensure that everyone stays committed to this pact? It goes beyond those that sign. All Nigerians too have to key in to the peace process to know that if we stay peaceful, then our country will be peaceful.
We keep saying our country will be peaceful. Who is government? Isn't it people?
It's us.
People have their own certain ways of thinking, utterances. You don't know that some people are sabotaging the government. They're inciting.
I want you to speak to them. That starting from this point,
Starting from this point,
has spoken with us.
I would say, from my lineage and the way I was brought up, I'm naturally a respective person. You get what I'm saying? You know, because Nigeria has a lot of values that we were brought up is
You
down the drain.
imbibed from when you were young.
From being young. So I'll appeal to anybody going to vote to look at it critically, that why will I resort to violence, or why will I want to influence or scatter voting pattern? None of that at all. We need to be calm and vote your governor that you want.
And your members of the state houses of assembly as well.
Members of state of assembly, all of them. The whole election on March the 11th. They should all they should be doing from now to March 11 is peace, 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 peace,
Preach
peace.
peace, preach peace.
And if you
peace.
cannot preach that,
Stay
stay silent, and you're also putting your candidate into trouble.
In jeopardy. Okay, I think we have to call it a wrap at this time. Otumba Dr. Adejare Rewani Adegbenro, security expert and politician. It's been great listening to you. It's obvious why patriots. Please spread the word. All of us have a stake in Nigeria being in peace. Then we can be unified.
You see, I have a saying, and it's always my typical saying. I'm a Nigerian, and my tribe comes second. That is the one for you.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. We are patriots talking together. Thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you very much too.
We wish Nigeria well.
Thank you.
You're watching Weekend Deal. Well, there you have it. We thank you so much for being a keen participant of our package today, where we focus on the presidential elections just concluded and the matters arising. Tomorrow is another day. And remember, the peace accord is not just binding on candidates, okay? Is binding on all Nigerians, because we all have a stake in this great country of ours. Please join us again tomorrow. Let's do it again for Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. From all of us here, it's bye-bye.